Ladies and gentlemen, this is Kaspar Klasra with new episode of Global Ecos. We have an honorable guest. Let me tell you that he is one of the most vocal voices for Palestine. He is Mr. Sabri, one of the most vocal voices for Palestine. He is the Deputy Secretary General of the Fatah Central Committee and also the former Minister of Education and Higher Education as well. Welcome to the show, sir.
It's good to be with you. Thank you.
Mr. Sabri, can you tell us what's the latest in Gaza?
Well, as you know, Israel is now saying that within the coming few weeks it will conclude its operations and it will move to, as it calls it, phase three, which is an unknown kind of phase. People don't know the details, although Israeli media is talking about surgical operations. But so far, Israel has demolished Gaza Strip in its entirety, has killed almost 40,000 people, and has displaced about 2 million people in the Gaza Strip, making it rather unlivable, and has even displaced and caused the displacement of people. It has moved to the so-called safe havens. So the situation is extremely dire. No hospitals operational so far, but one. There's no clinics whatsoever. Schools have been totally demolished. Universities have all been bombed out. Mosques, the majority of them have been flattened, basically, and churches have been destroyed. So almost every aspect of life in Gaza has been destroyed by the Israeli forces.
What we are getting from our sources is that the United Nations is doing something to help the people, to help the children, and most importantly, the elderly of Palestine there. Can you please tell us if this is correct? Because the news is coming from the international media, American media, Western media, that every possible way is being utilized by the United Nations to appease, to give some relief to the people of Gaza. Is this true?
Well, my friend, things are measured by the outcome of the energy that's been put, and certainly Israel is not giving in to the pressure of the international community. It is going totally unhindered. The operations are ongoing, the slaughtering is ongoing, the genocide and the existing Holocaust is being carried out by Israel, totally unstopped. So I would say, despite all the goodwill of the international community, despite all the supporting mechanisms that have been put in place, despite all the UN resolutions, the demonstrations, the vocal voices that are projecting on a situation that's extremely dire, Israel is totally unhindered. It's having a free hand, it's supported by the American administration, and it's having its way, and now it's capitalizing on the American elections. Let me just say that the position of Pakistan has been most appreciated by the people of Palestine. We have seen you guys in the streets of almost every city and village of Pakistan voicing your anger vis-a-vis the situation here. We have seen your political stance. We have heard you quite well at the UN. You have pushed Palestine to the surface, and you continue throughout even this interview rather, you have been propagating a message of support which is desperately needed. You have given financial support. You have given every aid that is possible for Palestine. You have taken care of our students. You have stood as real brothers, real, honest, sincere, supportive, and reliable brothers. But despite all this goodwill, Israel still gets its way with this. Criminals are everywhere, killing, slaughtering our women and children. And now they are even torturing the imprisoned people of Palestine that have been rounded up from Gaza and those who were at prison before the 7th of October. Stories, horror stories are coming out, and the situation is super dire as it stands.
You have held important position in the field of education. And what do you think of the student protest last month in the United States? What is the impact of these protests in Palestine-Israeli conflict? What do you make of it?
Well, let me say, the momentum has been extremely great. The American administration has certainly been moved by the accumulation of anger. It has slightly shifted towards ending the conflict. As you could see, Biden is trying to advocate some sort of arrangement whereby there is a cessation of fire. Although Israel is prolonging this and turning it into a process that is maybe as lengthy as the entire so-called peace process it has carried out over the last 30 years or so. So I would say they've been effective. They have basically put Palestine on the map worldwide and have brought the Palestine cause into the surface, giving it the priority it desires and it deserves. My concern is that, as you know, universities would break for the summer holidays, although there is what they call the summer term, but the number of students is much less than those in regular education, which means that the fire that has been ignited by the universities have calmed down so far worldwide. So we are keen to see a reinvigoration of the steps of the students, and we would like to see it basically echoed on other sectors and not only within the students sector. We would like to see the medics, we would like to see the engineers, we would like to see the professionals of the world come to the rescue of the Palestinians and carry out such protests not only in America but worldwide.
Well, there has been reports that the Palestinian Authority and the Palestinian people have been very grateful they express their gratitude towards these students as well. Well, what are your thoughts on expressing gratitude for the student protesting against the Israel and U.S. policies regarding Palestine? What do you make of it, please?
Well, let me say that they come as a sort of reminding the world community with the days of or the days of the Vietnam War when the student movement was effective. So basically, it is a good tool for the Palestinian people. Sadly, nobody knew at the time that the war would continue beyond the regular sort of the procession of the universities, which means that the term has ended, and with it, students were dispersed by virtue of their daily schedule. So sadly, this has, as I said, calmed down in a way that we would like to see it echoed on other sectors, whereby we see such a momentum being repeated and carried out. But again, as I said, the end result is zero so far. America still protects Israel, and Israel is getting its way with the current atrocities that are taking place, even as we speak.
Well, I remember last time when I spoke to you, you told me that the Palestinian Authority was taking specific measures, and they were in fact considering the specific measures for the protesting students. And I mean, like establishment of the Youth Memorial Day. I mean, is this true that the Palestinian Authority is going to name some of the roads against these students' leaders and other such type of measures as being considered by the Palestinian Authority? Anything so far materialized in this regard?
Yeah, definitely. I, for one, have heard many discussions to that effect. But as you know, we are still amidst this storm. We are in the middle of such a genocide. So we are taken by the heat of the moment. But certainly, when things are calmer, the situation will be reassessed and steps will be taken in that direction. Definitely, no doubt.
Well, first it was, we all know that first it was Aaron Bushnell, the US soldier who set himself on the fire just against the US backing of Israel. Now, common students, common Americans have stood in favor of Palestine. Will the Biden administration give up before these protests? What do you think?
Well, I think, any voice that is echoed worldwide that is in support of Palestine is most appreciated. Nobody sit on his back thinking that, the situation is not going to be affected. On the contrary, we live in the era of social media where the word that is pro-Palestine that's aired on social media and transmitted over social media rather is extremely effective by virtue of films or textual material, commercial ads, and also by parliamentarians and politicians standing in different official and non-official platforms speaking and talking and highlighting the issue of Palestine is extremely effective. So I would say humanity at large in the course of the last few months had echoed its discontent with the situation as it were. But definitely, as I say, America is still getting its way with the support of Israel, and Israel is certainly benefiting of the American veto, as it were, especially in the Security Council and beyond, and is continuing with this madness that is ongoing, that is hurting humanity ethics, and that is affecting and basically causing a dent in the human conscience, as it were.
Well, we all know that this is going to be the election year in United States of America. There may be a change in U.S. administration, and they actually were reports that maybe Trump could be the next president of United States. In case if that happened, do you see any change in U.S. policy towards Israel-Palestine conflict?
Well, as you know, my friend, before Biden's, taking up office, it was indeed a tough time with Trump. And Trump is not the man who changes his mind, is not a man who is sensible. You're talking about somebody who is more of a bulldozer that is basically scooping everything and its way out of the way. And his latest debate was reflective of his state of mind, was reflective of what he wants to do, and was reflective of his allegiance to the Zionist movement in America that is affecting and designing and engineering a scene that is extremely bleak for the Palestinian people. Biden has failed us big time. His promises proved to be out, to be nothing but totally void. He has endorsed the Israeli attack on the Palestinians. He has endorsed and backed this current massacre that's taking place, and he has supported genocide. So the two of them basically have Palestinian blood on their hands, and nothing whatsoever is going to change this scene. Maybe, but the change of the candidate of the Democratic Party, and that, if happens, maybe we will have somebody who is more sensible, more, sort of sympathetic to ending the Arab-Israeli conflict, and more attentive to a situation that is extremely dire, that has led to the situation we are in now. So Trump is a man who is basically entrenched in his crime record, and Biden is entrenched in his health challenges. So sadly, the Palestinians are again caught in the middle. That's why we need to expedite world pressure. We need to intensify that pressure to the extent that can affect the scene, as it were.
As a matter of fact, U.S. role in Israel-Palestine conflict has been shoddy. They have been badly criticized for backing Israeli aggression against the Palestine. And we have seen that the way the European countries recognize the state of Palestinian, and they raise their voice in the United Nations as well. Do you think such type of gestures by Norway, by Denmark, and other European countries have actually supported Palestinian cause, and this is actually a defeat of United States campaign to back Israel? Do you think that the United States support towards Israel is actually being criticized by the rest of the world?
Indeed, my friend, and I think the support is diminishing. The world community at large now, even those who have had their reservations about the Palestinian side, have now lifted these reservations and have recognized for the first time, some of them, that the aggression against the Palestinian people, the prolonging of occupation that has lasted over 76 years, the Nakba of the Palestinian people, and the disasters that have been reoccurring over decades on end, nothing but a result and a byproduct of the existing and prolonged occupation of Israel to Palestine. So indeed, there is a total change of the school of thought of the international community. Indeed, there is a change of position on many countries. And indeed, that has its definitely a prioritization factor, as it were, to the current situation vis-a-vis the support for Palestinians. But my friend, again, things will be only measured by the end result. And the end result is that the American administration is basically blindfolded into supporting Israel, is giving in to the pressure of the Zionist movement of America, is being driven into supporting Israel by virtue of blackmailing. And we think that the American administration has not been able to rid itself of the pressure that's been exerted by the Zionists of America who are basically backing Israel without any sort of sense or appreciation for human needs and human rights of the Palestinian people. So that's why we as Palestinians fear the following, that the situation, as it were, is being pushed into a corner whereby people are living with a daily routine of things happening, and it's becoming a daily happening that is attracting less and less attention by the people of the world. So we need, with your good self, to keep the situation alive, and we need to draw attention to the current difficulties faced by Palestinians, to convince the American administration to totally change its position, and even to lobby the Zionists of America and the world to change the position vis-a-vis Palestine. Israel will not be at peace if it thinks that it can quash the will of the Palestinian people. Israel will not win any sort of tranquility if justice is not served. This has to get to the brains of every Zionist around the world and every Israeli around the world. Now, mind you, Netanyahu wanted to turn this war into a religious war, only to find that thousands, if not millions, of Jews around the world, moderate Jews, are in support of the Palestinians. So this is not a war between Islam and Judaism. This is a war between the world and the Zionist brains that are thinking that they can, with force, dictate their wish upon the Palestinian people.
A last question. Do you think that this is the high time for the US administration to release the students which were taken and arrested by the US forces just for protesting in favor of the innocent children, women, and elderly people in Palestine? Do you think the United States must take some steps and release all of the students who have been languishing in various jails across United States?
Indeed, my friend, and America should live up to its promise it has made to the international community that it will be the guardian of justice and the guardian of peace and a mediator between the Palestinians and the Israelis. One day, we have appointed the American administration by virtue of will and good faith to be an honest broker of a future peace in the Middle East, only to find that America is taken hostage by the Zionist Americans who are believing that Israel should prevail, and no worries and no concerns and no appreciations and no consideration for the Palestinian people. So indeed, the challenge now is for the world to digest the concept that all this had happened whilst America and other countries were basically sloganeering about human rights, about good governance, about democracy, about people's space in the era of globalization, about people's wish to be independent and free. All these terms and terminologies that have been shoved up our throats, and have been lobbied by American institutions to be upheld in different countries, have fallen in Palestine. And we have seen total disrespect for democracy, total disrespect for human rights, total disrespect for good governance, and total lack of appreciation for human values to be upheld. So we would like America to reconsider not only its position vis-a-vis the students, but to revisit the school of ethics that it has claimed to have held over the years on end.
Do you have any comments or suggestion on the Palestinian-Israeli conflict that has continued to this day because of unfair attitude of United States? Any suggestions, sir?
My friend, Gaza is 365 kilometers. It has been surrounded by a force that amounts to about 400,000 soldiers. Almost every weapon in the world America has been tried in Gaza. The amount of ammunition that is being used and deployed in Gaza amasses up to and exceeds rather 5 times of the amount of bomb power that was dropped on Nagasaki and Hiroshima. And yet, guess what? The Palestinian people are still there and still alive and still adamant and still wishing to die for their land. So with that, I think, the world at large should direct the American administration and should tell Israel that enough is enough. You cannot oppress the Palestinian people and accept or expect rather that they will give in. Power does not lead, my friend, to any sort of any people losing their identity over fear. They will only give in to an appreciative, a well-considered and well-articulated peace formula that brings about a two-state solution. Other than that, Israel is just dreaming, and the American administration is basically committing a big mistake. So, time to wake up, America. Time to wake up, Israel.
Thank you very much, sir. And
Thank you, my friend. Take care.
ladies and gentlemen, this is high time for the Americans to stop backing Israel, stop the war in Gaza, and this is a high time for the world community to listen up to the plight of Palestinian children, women, and elderly.